Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So this is part 2 of Fred and Rosemary's crazy and violent life on 25 Cromwell Street. Rosemary's West life, her early life. Rosemary was born on the 29th of November 1953 to a dysfunctional family. Her father, Bill Letts, was a schizophrenic who demanded total obedience from his wife and children, and he was always on the lookout for reasons to beat them. We were not allowed to speak and play like normal children, said Rose's brother Andrew. If we were noisy, he would go for us with a belt or a chunk of wood. In the thrall of the violent husband, Rose's mother Daisy suffered from severe depression. So in 1953, she was hospitalized and given electroshock therapy. She was pregnant with Rose at the time, and this may have affected the newborn child. In her cot, Rosemary developed the habit of rocking violently, sometimes so violently that she could move her pram across the room even when the brake was on. A pretty child, there were rumors that she had an incestuous relationship with her father, who was known for molesting young girls. At school, Rose was teased for her chubbiness, which made her violent. As an adolescent, Rose became very sexually promiscuous. She would walk around the house naked, then climb into bed with her younger brother and fondle him. Outside the home, she took an interest in older men, one of whom raped her. Then in 1969, the 15-year-old met the 28-year-old Fred West. Lord have mercy. You mean to tell me Fred is 13 years older than her, and she was walking around the house naked and fondling her brother? Like, doomed, I tell you, doomed. Brain damage. Born in 1941 in the village of West, I'm sorry. Why I keep getting, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I had a brain fart. Okay, born in 1941, the village of Marcel, some 14 miles northwest of Gloucester, West had inherited some of her mother's less attractive features. Narrow eyes and a big mouth with a large gap between his front teeth. Well, you could tell he's ugly in the picture. Scruffy and unkempt. West did not do well at school, taunted for being a mommy's boy. He was a troubled pupil and was thrashed regularly. When he left school at 15, he was practically illiterate. At 16, West began to take an interest in girls, including his sisters. He claimed to have been introduced to sex by his mother and said that his father had committed incest with his daughters. Jesus Christ. West claimed that his father said, "I made you, so I'm entitled to have you." But then he was also a liar. At 17, West was involved in a serious motorcycle accident, suffering a fractured skull that left him in a coma for a week. This seems to have left him with an insatiable need for sex. He then met a 16-year-old girl named Catherine Costello, nicknamed Rena. She had been a petty thief since childhood and was constantly in trouble with the police. The two misfits quickly became lovers, but the relationship was halted after a few months when Rena returned home to Scotland. Eager for more sex, Fred became offensively forward. One night, while standing on a fire escape outside a local youth club, he stuck his hand up a young woman's skirt. She reacted furiously, knocking him over. In the fall, he banged his head again, which may have. I'm sorry, but I'm picturing this in my mind and him falling and banging his head. I'm sorry, which may have well aggravated the frontal lobe damage caused by the motorcycle accident. Marriage to Rena Costello. Fred West had then embarked on a career in petty theft. In 1961, he and a friend were caught red-handed with some stolen goods on them and were fined. His general practitioners claimed that he suffered from epileptic fits, saved him from serving a jail sentence. Soon after, he was accused of getting his 13-year-old sister Kitty pregnant, but Fred was, oh God. Ew. Why? First of all, let's talk about this. Why is there so much incest going on? Why is Fred messing around with his 13-year-old sister and getting her pregnant? He was unbothered by it. He didn't see anything wrong in molesting underage girls, even those in his immediate family. Doesn't everyone do it, he says? No, Fred. Everyone doesn't do it. His family threw him out and went to work on building sites where, again, he was caught stealing. There were also more allegations about him having sex with underage girls. In the summer of 1962, Raina Costello returned from Scotland and took up with Fred again. They married secretly that November and moved to Scotland. Raina was pregnant by an Asian student, so when her daughter Charmaine was born in March 1963, Fred got her to write his mother, explaining that they had adopted a mixed-race child. Jesus. West's sexual appetite was now causing problems. He preferred bondage, anal and oral sex, straightforward. I can't believe this what I'm reading. Anal and oral sex, straightforward intercourse. Although she worked as a prostitute, Raina was not always willing to comply, but at the time, West was driving an ice cream van, which gave him easy access to other young women. Oh, God. In 1964, Raina gave birth to West's child, Anne Marie, and he treated both children cruelly. The couple then met a young Scottish woman named Anne McFall. All three of them, plus Raina's two children, moved to Gloucester, where, I hope I'm saying that right, where West got a job in a slaughterhouse, fueling and morbid obsession with corpses, blood, and dismemberment. Oh, this is ridiculous. When Raina fled back to Scotland, Fred refused to let her take the two children with her. She returned to Gloucester in July 1966 to find Fred and Anne McFall living together in a caravan. Around that time, there had been 8 sexual assaults in that area committed by a man who matched West's description. Increasingly worried about the safety of her children, Raina went to the police and told them that her husband was a sexual pervert and an unfit father to raise her daughters. This was when Constable Hazel Savage first became involved of the case. West responded by killing her, dismembering her body, and burying her in a field. When the corpse was unearthed in 1994, the fingers and toes were missing. After Anne McFall's disappearance, Raina moved into the caravan with West. Oh, Lord Jesus. And with his encouragement, she went to work as a prostitute again. Meanwhile, he began to openly molest 4-year-old Charmaine. Now, you know what? This guy did, this guy is just, he is just going too far. He has went too far, too far, too far, too far. Ridiculous. You know what I did? I think I skipped something. I skipped something. But this is ridiculous. So I'm going to read what I skipped, okay? And it'll all make sense. First murder victims. By the beginning of 1967, McFall was pregnant with West's child. She put pressure on him to divorce Raina and marry her instead. But in July, West responded by killing her. So now we're caught up. I got confused for a moment because this story is crazy. Whew, Lord. Whew. On January 5th, 1968, pretty 15-year-old Mary was abducted from her bus stop. She was never seen again and was thought to have been another one of Fred's victims. After Mary had been gone missing, most of the girls in the area were cautious about going out, but not Rosemary. On the 28th of November, 1968, West picked up Rosemary at the bus stop. And I guess that's how they became to be. The deaths of Raina and Charmaine. Whether Bill lets shortcomings as a parent, he tried to keep his underage daughter away from Wes. The relationship was halted briefly when Wes went to prison for theft, but Rose was already pregnant with Wes' child. And at 16, she moved into Wes' caravan to take care of Rena's 2 daughters. Why are they living in a caravan? How big was this damn one caravan? They move into the caravan, they move out the caravan. What is... Oh my God, this poor caravan. In 1970, Rose gave birth to the ill-fated Heather with Fred in jail. No money, 3 children to take care of. The teenage Rose found it hard to cope. She also resented having to take care of another woman's children and treated them abnormal. Then in the summer of 1971, 8-year-old Charmaine went missing. Rose told Anne-Marie that their mother, Raina, came to get her. There is no doubt that Rose killed her because Fred was in jail at the time. However, when he got out, he helped Rosemary bury Charmaine's body under the kitchen floor of 25 Midland Road, a house in Gloucester they had recently moved into. When the corpse was found, the fingers and toes were missing again. What is his obsession with cutting off fingers and toes? Like, this is ridiculous. To earn extra money, Fred encouraged Rose to work as a prostitute. Here we go to prostitution jobs. He enjoyed watching her through a peephole. Although he was oversexed, Fred would only join in if the sex involved bondage, lesbianism, or vibrators. This guy is sick as I don't know what. Eventually, Raina came to look for her daughter, Charmaine. Unable to get any sense out of Fred or Rose, she visited Fred's father. As a result, Fred decided to kill Raina. At the house on Midland Road, he got her drunk and strangled her. Then he dismembered her body and buried the pieces in the field not far from Ann McFall. Once more, the fingers and toes were missing. I don't get it with this guy with this fingers and toes stuff. I really don't. The move to Cromwell Street. Fred and Rose began employing their neighbor, 19-year-old Elizabeth, as a babysitter. On more than an occasion. When the West returned home, Elizabeth asked them where they had been. They said they had been cruising around looking for young girls, virgins they preferred. Oh God. Fred explained that he had taken Rose along as they would be afraid to get into the car with him if he was alone. Elizabeth thought that he was joking, but then Rosemary admitted that she was a prostitute and invited Elizabeth to go to bed with her and Fred. Meanwhile, Fred propositioned her with an eye to bondage. She refused, but later she was drugged. When she came to, she found herself naked in bed with Fred and Rosemary. In January 1972, Fred and Rose married, and in June they had another daughter named May. They needed a bigger house to raise their growing family, so they moved into 25 Cromwell Street. This house had a garage and a spacious cellar, which Fred converted into a torture chamber. Its first inmate was his own 8-year-old daughter, Anne-Marie. Rosemary and Fred stripped her and gagged her, tying her hands behind her back. Then Rose held her down while Fred raped her. These people are insane. What in the heck? Oh my God. Lord, let me be a fence and get through this because this is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. They are nuts. Oh my God. This hurt Anne-Marie so much that she could not go to school for several days. She was warned not to tell anyone, otherwise she would be beaten and raped, and it would continue. Oh my God. The murders. Fred and Rose continued cruising the vicinity looking for young girls. At the end of 1972, they picked up 17-year-old Caroline Owens, whom they hired as a live-in nanny. The pair of them tried to seduce her, and when she refused, they stripped her and raped her. Fred threatened her with a gang rape and murder if she told anyone about it, but she could not hide her bruises from her mother, who called the police. In court, West was able to convince that Caroline had consented to sex, and the pair got off with a small fine. By this time, Fred was 31 and Rose was 19 and pregnant for the third time. The West still needed a nanny. So, seamstress Linda moved into 25 Cromwell Street soon after they murdered her and buried her and dismembered her body under the floor of the garage. When Linda's family asked what had happened to her, they were told she had moved on. Now, you know what? When I watch the documentary, I see why they condemned that whole house. It's just too many bodies. It's just too much stuff it was just too much. It was just too much. Then in August 1973, the West's first son, Stephen, was born. Stephen. That November, the West abducted the 15-year-old girl, Carol Ann Cooper, and took her back to Cromwell Street, where they abused her sexually. After they grew tired of this, they killed her, either suffocating her or strangling her. Then her body was dismembered. Under the house she went. The following month, 21-year-old university student Lucy Partington accepted a lift from the West. They took her back to Cromwell Street, where they raped and tortured her for about a week, then murdered her, dismembering her body and burying it under the house. 3 more women would go missing and would be killed. 15-year-old schoolgirl Shirley, 19-year-old Juanita, and 21-year-old Teresa ended up under the cellar floor at 25 Cromwell Street. The West had subjected them to extreme bondage, using plastic cover washing lines and ropes to suspend them from one of the beams in the cellar and gagging them with tights, nylon socks, and bras. Oh, what? This is just ridiculous. I am going to skip forward, and I'm going to read about the police investigation. So the police started investigating the whole thing. It was only 5 years later that the West began to run out of luck. One of the very young lucky girls that he had abducted and raped told her girlfriend what had happened, and the friend went to the police. The case was assigned to Hazel Savage, now a detective constable who knew of Fred West from 1966 when Raina told her about his sexual perversions. As it go on, Detective Savage was onto them and started questioning them, and come to realize that they were up to no good. But Fred himself, he gave himself in. He told the police that she was, he did all the killings. Rose had nothing to do with this. He even told them where the body was. The body was under the house, under the garden. They dug up the garden and they said, okay, we got body parts, but they belong to more than one girl. So with that, after he had told them all of this MFer, Fred West, he hangs himself. And he leaves all of this on Rosemary, who I do not feel sorry for, because she had issues, just like he had issues, and those two somebody should have been killed them. I mean, they were off the chain. Fred West hangs himself on December 13th, 1994. Fred West was charged with 12 murders. He and Rose appeared together in court. In the dock, Fred tried to comfort Rose, but she pulled back from him. He later wrote to her saying, "We will always be in love. You will always be Mrs. West all over the world. That is important to me and you." So they wanted to be well-known killers. Just before noon on New Year's Day at Winston Green Prison in Birmingham, 53-year-old West hanged himself with strips of bed sheets. This left Rose alone to face 10 counts of murder. Clearly, though, she could not have been involved in the murder of Raina and Anne McFall, as they had been killed before she knew Fred. Her trial opened on the 3rd of October 1995. In his closing speech, Brian Levinson for the prosecution maintained that Rose was the dominant force in the West murderous partnership. The evidence that Rosemary West knew nothing is not worthy of belief. No one believed her that she didn't know about those murders. I wouldn't have believed her either. She knew about those murders. She knew about those murders. The jury quickly came to a unanimous verdict that Rosemary was guilty of the murders of Charmaine West, Heather West, Shirley Robinson, and the other girls buried at the house. She was sentenced to life imprisonment on each of the 10 counts of murder. In 1996, her appeal was turned down. The Home Secretary then told Rosemary that she would never be released and would have to serve her whole life sentence. Oh, Lord have mercy. Then, on January 22nd, 2003, the BBC reported that the wedding between Rose West and session musician Dave Glover has been called off. So they was going to have a jail wedding. A serial killer. Who wants to marry a serial killer? Ugh. The pair have been writing each other for a year, but Mr. Glover is reported to have pulled out because of the publicity. Glover, a 36-year-old bass player, had been working regularly with the band Slave for 8 months, but his contract was quickly terminated. I wonder why. If you messing around with Rosemary, of course. Nobody want you in a group and you get ready to marry a serial killer. Please. I would have told you to get away too. Her daughter May believes that there could be as many as 30 more victims. She stopped any contact with her mother, as she said she could come clean if she wanted to, but continued to remain her silence. In 2018, the Sun newspaper reported that Rose had found religion in jail, saying that God would forgive her. She also told other inmates, "Fred made me do it." Isn't that some craziness? I have never heard of, I know there's some stuff out there, but oh my God, this was ridiculous. This couple, she needs to get injected. Not now, but right now. That she should have been had the death penalty. They should have been put her to sleep. All those things they did to those girls. Ridiculous. Well, I hope you enjoyed this story. As promised, I said I was going to come up with part 2. And I have done that. Woo! Let me know what you think. I'm going to leave the documentary link, if I can find it, in my description box. But whoever out there, Jay, if you're listening and you got the link, please leave it in the comment section. I can't even talk after this. I would appreciate it. All right, you guys, I gotta go. Y'all have a great day.